Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the EVI Women in STEM seminar series. Our guest speaker today is Suzanne Jansze, the Technical Project Manager and Senior Scientist in the Material and Texture Department at a plant-based food industry. Today, she will be sharing some career and personal advice for us all. Hello, Suzanne. Thank you so much for meeting with us. Me, alongside EVI, I really appreciate it.
Hi, Hattie. Nice to see you, and I'm happy to be here.
Perfect. So first, what does the technical project manager at a company in the plant-based food industry do, and what does the work entail?
Yeah, so I supervised about 7 junior scientists on a daily basis. So kind of really helping them understand which experiments they need to do this week or this month, and kind of helping them through the thought process of setting up experimental design. And then on the other hand, I kind of keep the overview of the project and communicate upwards with the directors to make sure that the research that we do fits in with the overall company strategy, and that all kind of fits in. So a little bit of science and a little bit of project management.
Out of curiosity, what does the materials and texture department do?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, for food, there's the importance of flavor. I think that's the first thing that comes to everybody's mind. But as you can imagine, texture is also extremely important. Nobody really likes a super soggy veggie burger. So getting the texture right, I think, is quite important. And I think most plant-based food companies nowadays have a good texture department that introduces new materials to kind of get that texture right.
Perfect. So let's start from the beginning. How did you go from a PhD in supramolecular chemistry and material science and found a career at a company in the plant-based food industry?
Yeah, I think for me, the sustainability mission is really what got me engaged into a plant-based food. I think we are all aware of the current climate crisis and how important it is that we all do something about this. I think food is something that not everybody thinks about. As in, if we see a Tesla, we all think about sustainability, but food is actually also one of the larger impacts you can make. And I think coming from a chemistry background, you can go in a lot of different directions. During my PhD, I mainly studied all sorts of interactions that are non-covalent. So this comes to hydrogen bonding and ionic interactions. And these are actually very prevalent as well in biological systems and food. So, despite the fact that I don't have a classical food science background, uh, yeah, we definitely saw that it was a good fit from a technical perspective as well.
As an undergrad, it can be extremely difficult to know what avenue to go to, especially when it comes to choosing your major. So, out of curiosity, why did you choose chemistry as your major and what did you like about it?
Yeah, I think as you said, it's important to start from the beginning. Like I come from a family where nobody really went to college. Um, so I didn't even really know that doing research on a sustained basis is really like a profession one could do. Um, so I didn't really go into it with that in mind, that I wanted to be a researcher. I probably saw myself maybe, working in a hospital laboratory or something along those lines. And it was actually my chemistry teacher in high school that told me about this undergraduate that I ended up doing, which is called molecular life sciences, where you kind of start very broad. You do a little bit of biology, molecular biology, microbiology. You do some physics, but all the way up to quantum mechanics, some chemistry, of course, biochemistry, enzymology. So a little bit of everything. And I noticed in myself that I really enjoyed the thought of like, what is the actual molecular interaction that is underlying these mechanisms? And that quite quickly actually leads you to chemistry.
What were some of your career aspirations when you chose this major? Were there other jobs you were planning for?
Yeah, as I said, I think the idea of of doing research for the rest of my life. I didn't even like grasp that concept when I started. Nobody in my family has a PhD, so that was definitely not like the first thing that came to my mind. And as I said, maybe working in a laboratory in a hospital or something. But yeah, as I went along, and I did my bachelor's degree, and in Europe, it's quite common you do extensive research stays. So even during your bachelor, you stay in lab for 6 months, and then in your master degree, which is also extremely common to do in Europe, you do a whole year in just as a full-time researcher. Obviously, there I got exposed to working with PhD students and professors and tenure track researchers, and made me realize that there's a whole profession out there I never knew about, which is doing research for a living, and doing that as a PhD and a postdoc, and kind of staying in the academic system, as well as that is considered a great basis for going into industrial research as well. So I definitely hadn't considered ending up where I am now, if you would ask my 12-year-old self. But I really enjoyed it. So I think going in it and kind of picking something broad and adjusting as you experience your undergraduate is a great way of doing it.
As you mentioned, the experience that you had was very setting you up for industry or academia. What do you see as the pros and cons of industry over academia, and why?
I think they definitely both have their pros and their cons. I think it's mainly very important to realize that you don't really have to make one decision. It's not a decision for life, and that's also how I saw my own decision to move to industry 2 years ago. Um, they have a lot of overlap as well, especially if you work in a research department in industry. I think in academia, you see that there's a lot more academic freedom. In industry, there might be more, yeah, you're a bit more closely working to products. So if you really want to, feel and touch the eventual end result and work on scaling, the industry is probably a better place to do that. But yeah, I think, as I said, I think the most important thing is that it's not a decision for life. I would still consider moving out of industry as well if I find a role that's a great fit.
On top of your PhD, you also got an MBA, which congratulations. What made you decide to get this degree, and do you think it was beneficial for your career?
Yeah, I just got my MBA last year, so thanks. It's still quite recent. I actually decided to do it as a part-time online program next to my first year of employment in industry, which was a lot of work. But I think on hindsight, it's been really worth it so far, mainly for my personal development and knowledge. I think for me, the motivation to do it was mainly solidification of knowledge that I already gained, and a strong interest that I also always already had about the business aspects of research, and kind of really understanding the business cases and the financial aspects of what it's like to justify doing certain research projects and funding one project over another. There's a lot of business aspects that come in there, and over the years and in a lot of the volunteer work that I did, I always kind of try to engage that business side of myself more. So doing the MBA was almost a natural kind of conclusion to wrap all of that up and put a nice little bow around it. And hopefully, yeah, hopefully it will help going forward. It's convincing employers that I do have all that knowledge, and I've solidified that in this degree as well. And yeah, it just kind of really taught me a couple more pieces of the language that business partners use, and that really helped me so far.
As you mentioned, there is a lot of crossover when it comes to funding research and knowing the business aspect, and as you said, knowing what should be prioritized over another. Because of this, would you recommend this for STEM students to obtain an MBA as well?
I think this is an interesting question, and it very much depends on your own kind of like personal interests and where do you see your career going in the future. I do honestly believe that it could be beneficial to almost any researcher to at least sit in on a business class or follow an online course. And you don't have to do a full MBA to understand all the aspects of it, but I think it's good to realize where business units are coming from, because even in academia, you'll at some point be kind of confronted with making budgets and arguing for business cases over one research project over another. So kind of speaking that language a little bit and being able to bridge those communication gaps that we often see between the hard R&D and the business units of companies or organizations, is almost unfortunate, I think. I personally really love interdisciplinary communication, and that goes between scientific fields, but also between the business units and the scientific fields. Bridging those gaps is where most of the value is, and where we can really come up with really innovative solutions. And especially, as I said, I have a passion for sustainability and the climate crisis. So yeah, I think we have to work together. This problem is too important to not kind of show interest and understand each other. So yeah, I would encourage people to at least take maybe a course or watch a couple of online videos. But doing a full MBA is maybe a bit much. I understand that it's a lot to ask.
Definitely, but that crossover is very much prevalent, especially with such an eager, pressing issue like climate change. So now shifting the conversation to more personal, being a minority in STEM and in industry can be extremely difficult. But despite this, there are extremely talented people, including yourself, looking to impact the world. What was your experience like, and what keeps you in this line of work?
Well, first, thanks for the compliment. Yeah, I think, as I said earlier, for me, the sustainability mission is I think, really important. It's a very urgent and prevalent issue, and we need great science to solve those problems on all aspects and on all levels. Over the years and the different countries that I've lived in, the different labs that I've worked at, I've really realized that diversity is really what brings good science. And that with that, I mean diversity on all aspects, from cultural to gender to multidisciplinary research, good communication between different units of a research department. Innovative solutions don't come falling from the sky, unfortunately. So I think diversity is a really big part of that. I think I've seen over the years that the more diverse a department is, the better people get confronted with differences and learn from each other's kind of ways of doing things. And that also makes you as a scientist better, because you can pick kind of from being exposed to all these different working styles, what works best for you. And kind of going through that experience has been extremely valuable.
Perfect. This is our last question. What would be the one piece of guidance and or insight you would like to give to future young people, especially young women looking to go into the STEM field? And why is this particular advice so important?
Yeah, I think, as in, if you have a curiosity towards the STEM fields, it's an extremely rewarding field to be in. I think literally it's what life is built on. So I think for all of us, it's there's always a part of it that can spike curiosity. So if you have a curious personality and you kind of like, really understanding how everything works, I think the STEM fields could be a really good fit for anybody that comes from that space. Like me, I could advise you also indeed to go relatively broad with your undergraduate, just to kind of, taste a little bit of different fields, do a little bit of biology, do a little bit of chemistry, do a little bit of physics before you specialize and decide what it is that you're most interested in, what you're good at. And yeah, I think, as I said before, I think STEM is extremely important to come up with these sustainability solutions. We need great scientists on all those fields to come up with solutions for this urgent problem. And it just, again, to quote Nike, just do it. I think don't feel like you are held back by being the only one in the classroom that looks like you. That should be a benefit, not a problem. And I think you should value that and see it as such. Don't feel like you can't make it because of that. Lastly, I think surround yourself by mentors that are supportive, and those don't have to be females or have to look like you exactly. I've had some great male mentors during my career that, yeah, actually just mainly treated me like everybody else and set me to the same standards as everybody else, and really made no difference in how they treated me over male colleagues. And I think that's there's a lot of value in that. It made me realize that, if I just, work hard um, and passionate about what I do, I'm as equally positioned to succeed as any of my colleagues, and that doesn't matter that I maybe look slightly different than some of them.
Well, thank you so much for such a great conversation. It is truly admirable to see a woman so accomplished in your career and have such great passion for the environment. I, alongside EVI, would like to thank you for your time and wisdom. We look forward to seeing what comes next from you, and we wish you the best of luck in all of your future endeavors.
Thanks so much. It was great talking to you.
Thank you all for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, as well as click the bell to be notified for our next interview. Our socials are linked here as well as on our website. If you're interested in climate change, renewable energy, biosciences, and all that comes with that, and also looking to see what career path you would like to take if you're interested in that, we highly recommend checking our socials and website out.